Hello everyone. The Mole Man, the Myth, the Foo Fighters cover extraordinaire, Gary Orsum is back. He's had enough of me interviewing Kevin Rudd and not pointing out that if you properly pronounce how Kevin Rudd's nickname is spelled out, it says CRUD. CRUD right at the top. What better indicator is there of what the rest of his content is? Having said that, thanks for the shout out, guys. Always good when one of the big guys gives a little guy a shout out.
Hello everyone.
There it is! He said the line!
Recently, former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd...
Yeah, that's why his audience comes back episode after episode in ever-diminishing numbers, because of Gaz's sharp as wit.
who for a long time I've referred to as Mr. Sour Grapes, has filed a petition in the Australian Parliament seeking a royal commission to investigate the majority ownership of media companies in Australia by media mogul Rupert Murdoch. To give us some insights into his attempts at trying to re-establish some modicum of political relevancy, he agreed to an interview with ALP Uber Brown-Nose Unfriendly Geordies.
Uber Brown-Nose? No, I'm going to look at my channel and... Yeah, carry on, fair enough.
We've had 18 federal and state elections since 2010, and Murdoch's newspapers have viciously campaigned against Labor in all 18 and viciously campaigned for the Liberal National Party in all 18.
Or as I like to describe it, offered the alternate perspective so that Australia isn't completely overrun by Marxism-indoctrinated media studies graduates working for Fairfax, The Guardian or the ABC.
Marxism indoctrinated? Gaz, have you ever been inside a journalism lecture at a university? Actually, scratch that. Have you ever been inside a university? Actually, scratch that. Did you graduate primary school? I speak to a lot of journalism students and graduates. You know what they all say? The entire degree is aimed at them getting a job in the Murdoch press. I don't see where they have the time to delve into the nuances of Karl Marx's economic theories, in between their classes of, this is how you pretend that bushfires aren't linked to climate change 101. Now you're going to want to pay attention to this class like your job depends on it, because it does. I really like how Gary can't get it through his sultana-shaped head that the ABC is 100% funded by the government. The government is the Liberal Party. What, you think they're going to turn around and say, this just in, I really hate my boss and I'm going to broadcast that to the nation? And what, Scott Morrison's going to sit there? Well, as a veteran marketer, I do know that any publicity is good publicity. Here's a bunch of other videos of me shitting on the ABC, but we'll go through this one more time, Gaz, just for you. You ready? The head of the ABC is Ita Buttrose. She has raised millions of dollars for the Liberal Party over the years. What, you think the Marxist indoctrination is so deep that she's one of those plants that Lenin used to install in the institutions of Russia, do you?
Of course she is, just like ex-Sky News host David Spears. The hint's in the name of the show. Insiders, dumbass.
Same thing with 9 Fairfax. Peter Costello is on the fucking board. You think that he's all of a sudden going to turn a new page? No. I've just been spending my entire life shitting on the Labor Party. Now that I'm in charge of this giant megaphone that owns 50% of the media in this country, I'm going to turn a new page, as it were. A Sydney Morning Herald page that is extremely independent and just so happens to back my party in almost every federal election.
Yeah, and that's why they're the left-wing media, because they support the Labor Party very, very, very occasionally.
And given that he's just bought up every single newspaper in Queensland, I said, enough is enough.
Well, I'm certainly no expert on media ownership in Australia.
Yeah, you could say that again, Gaz, but I would extend that to you're not an expert in anything except living in your mum's garage. That and epically burning me through song.
The dickheads all subscribe to Geordies. I swear they love to taste his brown.
All the dickheads subscribe to Geordies.
Oh, wait, actually, he's burning you. Better unsub, otherwise you're a dickhead.
But when I do even a cursory search, I don't get just bought up every paper in Queensland. I get that News Corp was going to buy Queensland's regional papers, ARN, Australian regional newspapers in late 2016 for $36.6 million, and that ultimately the ACCC approved the sale and the sale went ahead. So I'm not sure that 3 to 4 years ago constitutes just bought.
He formed a monopoly in Queensland years ago, idiot. How is that just?
1 year ago.
Corruption.
2 years ago.
Corruption.
3 years ago.
That's ancient history, dickhead.
I found a story that the ACCC had concerns about him gaining a monopoly and that he may shut down those publications to eliminate competition. In effect, spending $36 million on eliminating his competitors in the belief that doing so would recoup the cost and ultimately profit from such a strategy. However, from other articles I found, it appears that he's been trying throughout 2020 to sell off ARN to Catalano's ACM, Australian Community Media, because regional papers are on the decline in general because of digital media.
Which is why he's trying to sell it to Catalano, who has an almost identical view to Rupert Murdoch. See the previous video where I totally owned a journalist in Launceston and I felt like a really big man doing it. Sadly, that is true. But also, Gaz, you missed this point, and I don't think you're being dishonest, I just think you're being dumb. He got a grant from the government of our money for $50 million to keep those regional papers open. He then shut them all down. Why? Because he's realised, yeah, it's no longer profitable to keep regional papers running. I'll just buy them up, I'll gut them to make sure that there's no alternative viewpoints in all of Queensland, and then I'll focus on the digital part of my empire and inundate them with that, while keeping all of the papers that are profitable running in Queensland so he still has a monopoly. What's your point? As usual, it's nothing, because you don't know what you're talking about.
It appears to me that your priority isn't your steadfast moral convictions about balanced media coverage in Australia, but your own partisan attempts to eliminate or greatly reduce criticisms of your own political party.
Yeah, but Gary, here's the point. If the news was presented factually, the Liberals would not win 70% of the time because they do not benefit a majority of the population. Especially you, when I can guarantee that your employment would fall into either two categories, pension or compo.
So something's happening out there. People are not happy with the Rupert and the boys.
That's odd, because when I did the video A White Night for Fairfax 3 years ago, it was all about Fairfax having to sack dozens, if not hundreds, of journalists because Fairfax was losing money because of dwindling readership. And I suggested at the time that the woke ideological bubble of groupthink and Clementine Ford's editorials on her overt man-hatred were contributing factors.
Well, that definitely is one factor in the decline of 9 Fairfax, but dwindling readership. People in glass houses, Gaz. We looked at your stats on Social Blade. I have never seen a channel that is losing subs. You know why you are? Because all you talk about is 2016 culture war shit in 2020. I know that you hate this. I hate it as well. But there's never been a more appropriate time to utter it. Gaz, it's 2020.
In the US, Tucker Carlson recently broke the record for the most views on any cable program ever. Tucker Carlson works for Fox. And who owns Fox again? That's right.
Well, first off, no one cucks the tuck, alright? Myself included. But there is a reason that his viewership keeps going up, and that's because of this face. He's the Macaulay Culkin of political commentators. What you have done is highlight one part of Rupert Murdoch's empire that is going up, and I really want people to focus on this. In the US, not in regional Queensland. You just said that his viewership is going down in regional Queensland, but it's going up in New York. Therefore, people in Australia don't sense that something's up with Rupert Murdoch's coverage. God, I would love to see an X-ray of Gary Orsum's brain. I bet you it's just a poster of Dave Grohl with a flickering fluorescent light over the top of it.
Yeah, I think even in conservative parts of regional Queensland, there's a bit of a stink factor at the moment about the Murdoch media monopoly, and people just don't like it.
The perception I get is that the stink is the relentless anti-Trump bias and outright falsehoods about him.
Gaz, I'll say it again. You don't live in America. You're so brainwashed by the Fox News you watch on YouTube that I bet you walk out of your house, see an echidna and think,
classic blue-haired mohawk feminazi eating up all the ants because they're too lazy to go out and get a job to afford their own ants. This really is the age of entitlement, isn't it? Gary, are you going to the shops? Yeah, shut up, Mum, I'm getting milk.
Make sure it's skim.
No, I'm not drinking cuck milk. It's too close to soy milk.
He then goes on to this long tirade as if the Labor Party's only policies are gender quotas, diversity, and gender fluidity. Diversity not even being a policy. Gender quotas, yeah, I guess that's annoying. But you know what's way more annoying?
Underfunded hospitals, which when someone talks like this, I would imagine they would need to go to quite a lot.
The central argument is, I don't read the Murdoch press, and therefore I'm immune to their propaganda.
An unwitting admission as to how mind-cripplingly dumb the average Geordie's viewer is. Like, how do you know it's propaganda if you haven't read it or don't even look at it?
Gary, shh, just calm down for a second, mate. I'll tell you what I mean by propaganda. I am using the word propaganda in its old context that didn't used to be a dirty word. It just meant information with a slant, i.e., all information. You, me, Fox News, Sydney Morning Herald, the ABC, your dead shit mate at the pub that says, "Tell you what, Gary, them cancelling the footy show, I bet your Labor's gender quotas had something to do with that." All of it is propaganda. It is just information with an argument. The reason that I use that term is because the new term has been weaponized. The new term means this specific information with an argument behind it is propaganda. But this information with an argument behind it, that's the news.
Let me guess, you just go along with what the other sheep tell you, don't investigate anything for yourself, and have no independent thoughts of your own. Secondly, has it ever crossed your tiny minds that perhaps the media you do take in is the propaganda?
Yes, it has. Because, Gary, and I know that I'm treading on old terrain here with my audience, I know that this is my read the Gulag Archipelago before you die, but read Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent before you die. That gives you an accurate, provable, academic breakdown of how the Western propaganda model functions throughout all of the West. Not just here, America, that I know you're obsessed with, so you gotta love it. In fact, Noam Chomsky is American. In fact, Tucker Carlson sometimes quotes Noam Chomsky. So maybe you should look into him. Because currently, your understanding of how media bias works seems to come directly from Fox News. I think there's better sources. We could go on, but Gary Orsum's nasally voice in surround sound in my ears, after a while, wouldn't you guess, gets a little draining. So if you want to hear his points, just go watch Sean Hannity Media Bias. It's exactly the same. It's pretty much just like how you can change the GPS voice you have. You're just going from annoying whiny nose lord to 1950s football coach. I'm sorry to be harsh on you as always, Gary. Just so you know, I'm a huge fan. I'm probably the only man on earth that has bought one of your shirts. But I think so little of you that I didn't even wear it when commenting on you. You, my friend, are just hilarious bait into getting more of my audience to click on this video because the Queensland election is coming up tomorrow and there is a really good chance that Jackie Trad loses her seat. It's looking like it's going to come down to 100 votes. Why? Because the Murdoch press has it in for her, and they have it in for her, A, because she's effective in Parliament, B, because if she loses, Queensland Labor loses. You have got to get out and vote. If you live in South Brisbane particularly, it is extremely important that you tell all of your hipster stoner friends that if Trad goes, Labor goes. And if Labor goes, it's open season on land clearing. Anyway, like this video, subscribe. There's more information coming out about the Queensland election in my Wednesday video, which I haven't filmed yet.
Whoa, what the f***? The magic of editing.
Please share and comment below. Comment.